Definitely not like my mic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get this started. So welcome to draw number 2 of our Tankard Men's Provincials in New Brunswick. So we are at the beautiful Capital Winter Club in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Welcome to our 7:30 draw. On Ice 4 this evening, we'll be watching Team Ed Sear from the Capital Winter Club versus Scott Jones from Curl Moncton. So for your live stream commentary tonight, you got myself, Will Robertson, and Stephen Muzzerall, and we'll try and give you some good content this evening. So we've had the practices have been completed, and Team Scott Jones is going to start this game off with the hammer. So Team Sear will be throwing the first rock. They'll be throwing blue, and Scott Jones' team will be throwing the Yellowstones.
Teams are just getting their last-minute instructions from the officials out there. Great group of volunteers here this weekend. This week, want to say we can't do it without them, so thank you for taking the time off work, taking your evenings off to be here.
Yeah, definitely can't run a good curling event without some fantastic volunteers, and especially the officials out there now, as you said. And we're just going to wait there a moment once again for their final instructions, and we'll be on our way. So we'll dive right into the lineups for this evening. So for Team Scott Jones out of Curl Moncton, as you may have guessed, at skip is Scott Jones. Third is Jeremy Millet. Second is Brian King. And the lead is Robert Daly. And then for Team Ed Sear, we got skip Ed Sear. Third, Alex Robichaud. Second, Chris Wagner. And about to throw the first rock of the game is lead Alex Kyle. And away we go. So we're about to get our first indication of what the ice surface is going to be like tonight. In terms of a hog-to-hog time, this is a 13-second rock. It's going to come to a stop just back 8.
So already up to speed, which is great with these provincial tournaments like this. We were fortunate to be out here last night curling on it, and lots of movement, lots of curl. I think we're going to see a lot of rocks in play in the later ends. These first couple ends, you're going to see them try to play it open to build some time up to take longer in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th end.
Yeah, so just to get back into the comfort of things, been off the ice for a little while since this afternoon. Just going to throw some hits to get the ice all keened up for the rest of the game. So hopefully we can get into some real impressive curling there in the later ends. Just exchanging hits there now. Nobody blinking thus far.
Ed never said anything?
Rob Daly perhaps throwing it a little heavier than was asked, but still makes a shot, but will roll out.
That's a 2 out of 4 on the stats book.
Yes, indeed. So then Chris Wagner here is going to get a chance to get a feel for his draw weight, just start the game, which is always nice as a second. You never know when it'll come in handy. Okay, so they're calling for a tight guard here now. Getting real aggressive real early, and this slips in, which it will not. Or, yes, did it slip in?
It did slip in.
Wow. So, Scott Jones is going to elect to hit this. With second Brian King throwing this hit. Just rolling a little. Should stay in play, which it does. And Team Ed Sear is going to elect to hit this with the inside out. Should stay a little straighter, might be a little easier to manage.
Yeah, I think the call was for peel weight.
So we're going to get a good glimpse of what these hits are going to do out here, out wide. Seem to do what they thought it would. Whether it's in or not is the question. And it's pretty close. I don't know whether it is or not, but Scott Jones is going to freeze to that rock. Try and get an early 2. Sweeper sweeping pretty hard for this one. Now they're off. Maybe coming around at this point. And they will.
Definitely a little heavier than what they were calling, but good outcome nonetheless. It's somewhat tucked in behind there, and the way these rocks are textured before the event, definitely causing a little more curl than we normally would see here at the club. So probably just a little too much ice, coupled with too much weight, and just lands back there in the house.
So with that, Alex Rocha is going to try and take this out. Seems to be, yeah, he'll get it and then roll to the middle. Starting to put a little bit of a squeeze on Team Scott Jones there. Once again, we don't have an overhead camera, so we can't see perfectly where these rocks are sitting, but seems to be that they're trying to avoid getting forced to one here. Jeremy will make his hit and stick. And Alex will try to follow it up with the same thing.
Funny to watch the sweeping and to see how it's evolved over the years. It used to be 2 guys pounding your guts out down the ice to hold the line. Now it's realizing, no, it's better to only have 1.
Yeah, directional sweeping, despite all the broom controversy of years gone by, directional sweeping does still have some effect, and you'll see that definitely with one sweeper on the inside every now and then. Depending on the shot you're throwing. Teams, especially at this caliber, tend to have a sweeper thrown on the inside, sweeping against the curl, unless it absolutely has to curl. In which case, the other sweeper will try and get some directional sweeping and move that rock. So Ed Sear will come down to throw his first skip stones. Once again, throwing the inside out with his in turn. So the clockwise rotation.
Good nose hit.
Yeah, and we do believe that they are sitting 2, so Scott Jones got a decision to make here.
Definitely a lot of questions about that blue stone out there right now.
Yeah.
Both teams are looking at it.
Although it seems to be the case that it's not going to worry Scott Jones yet, so we'll see what comes to be at the end of the of this first end. But for now, Scott Jones just electing to nose hit this blue stone with his out turn, counterclockwise rotation. Rob Daly originally on that rock, now off of it. And an easy nose hit for Scott Jones. Good to see some of that open hitting practice come to be of use. Once again, more questions asked about that blue stone over there in the outskirts.
It's funny. I was curling in the co-op mixed juniors back in the day, and we had an incident happen just like that where we had a rock sitting out in the. Was it biting? Was it not biting? And we played our last shot as if it was biting, and we did end up scoring the deuce. So that's where the 6-foot biter stick always comes in handy.
Yes, absolutely. Now this hit should be all right there. Seemed outside for a moment, but it will come to hit this yellow rock and roll over a little. So if that is in, here's the prime moment to get rid of both of those blues if need be. And now's the decision time, whether you take your one or you try the double and maybe you roll out or maybe you get your one, but seems to be that they're just going to hit for one.
I'd be trying for the double. Worst case scenario, you give up one.
Yeah, it's just about safety at this point. You know, first end, it's okay to take your one. I mean, same thing as you said. If you give up one, that's not the end of the world, but definitely going for the safe conservative option here in the first end, with an open hit for the one. Rob Daly on this right away. Both sweepers on it now. Jeremy Millet calling for the sweep. And just gets enough of that rock for his one. So Team Scott Jones throwing the yellow stones will get the first point here in the first end. And Team Ed Sear throwing the blue stones will have hammer in the second.
So just to update some of our other sheets, on sheet 1 we have Ryan Kane versus Team Ottershaw. Ryan lost a nail biter this afternoon on sheet 3. Then we have on sheet 2 Jason Roach against Trevor Hansen, or ice 2, and then on ice 3 we've got James Grattan versus Rene Como.
And thus far, for those of you asking why there's no score on those yet, well, you see, they weren't playing as open games. Sheet 1's a little messy, and sheet 3 was quite messy a minute ago, but I think they've just put up a blank on sheet 2, I believe. And we get started over here on sheet 4 in our second end. With Rob Daly throwing the first rock. Nice high center guard. A little off center, so Might be kicking himself a little for that one, but such is life. So Ed Sear's going to call the come around here for Alex Kyle. And now this should get interesting, should get juicy pretty quickly. Seems to be heavy. It's trying to come down. Scott Jones is going to sweep this back too. Right on through. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. So another center guard. Wait for this one's being indicated that it's up as well. Should be stopping top 8, top 4 it seems. Or not. What do I know? Back 12. So this is what happens when you throw your whole first end, for the most part relatively close within the 4-foot lines where they would normally be, in the center of the sheet. Seemingly the center of this this ice surface is definitely a little faster than the outside for now, and maybe the lead's just picking up on that one. Maybe a little too late, but good to see the ice surface keening up like that. Alex Kyle putting his second rock. Nice. Open from that guard, but still a good draw.
Just got too close to the guard on its way by. Overburied and poked out the other side.
Brian King trying to hit and stick here. It's again Rob Daly off the rock now. Trying to curl it again there. We were talking about directional sweeping earlier. Jeremy in the lay at the end. And here we are again. Exchange of hits. Trying to hit and roll behind this yellow guard. And weight is usually everything for this kind of a shot. Definitely can't be thrown in a normal weight hit to try and roll behind this guard.
No, the way they texture these rocks and prepare the ice, typically you raise the weight, the straighter it stays.
Absolutely. Here we are again. Alex Robichaud demonstrating some attempt of directional sweeping here for us. Not quite curling at the end, but a good hit nonetheless. Brian King will try and hit and roll behind this guard as well. So you'll see even some of these teams, not only will the sweeper usually be trying to sweep against the curl most of the time, but will also, even clean and be ready to sweep at all times in case the rock takes off.
That was a fortunate outcome. Unfortunate, but fortunate all at the same time.
It's a plan B.
Yeah.
Plan B.
Get rid of the catcher, but at the same time, the rock you hit rolls out, so.
Yeah, makes Chris Wagner try and throw a draw here now. And once again, getting some practice here throwing draws at second, which seconds don't always get.
Well, with the 5 rock rule, they get it a lot more than they used to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, definitely still not their bread and butter.
But we're about to see if he proves us wrong here now. Pretty good draw, but it might slip a little deep. And it does. It's not an awful spot for it, but In the grand scheme of things, it's in a decent spot. Forces Jeremy Millet to throw his first rock to this blue stone. Try and freeze on it. Sit in front of it's okay too. Out of his hand, Ryan King sweeping this, try and keep it from curling. Just tapping that right on out. Alex Robichaux has the same opportunity now that Jeremy Millet had. Come and freeze onto that yellow rock. So again, that rock's curling pretty well now in the middle. Team's always sweeping for line so far, and the draw is thrown down this path. Just trying to get it further in here now. And they get it shot, rock.
Yeah, rock is shot.
Pretty good spot as well.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's in front of the tee line. Little where it's higher up, definitely harder to remove. But the way the rocks are moving, and potential is there.
Jeremy Millet is going to try and throw a lightweight hit at this blue stone. This will be curling the whole way. Coming off the center line here now. Trying to keep it from wrecking on the guard. And it does wreck on the guard. So now Ed Sear will try and sit two behind the guard. Alex Robichaux throwing his last stone, trying to throw probably a similar weight to his last shot, but might have to throw a little more weight. It is a bit of it's a keen spot, but when it starts curling around that guard, it might be a little more fresh there, a little more pebble left. Most of the end has been played on the left-hand side of the sheet from where the camera angle is that you're seeing now. Just trying to curl it at the end. And it is slowing down. But I believe it is, yep, sitting two.
Sitting two.
Can't ask for much better than that.
Sitting two a little higher and in behind cover, so out pretty good. A couple updates here for the other three sheets. Ottershaw has taken one on Kane after one. Sheet 2, they blanked the first end, and Gratna is up 2-0 against Rene Como.
So some discussion here about what to do. Jeremy Millet, Scott Jones thinking of what's the best strategy to try and keep Ed Sear's team from taking two on them. At least try and make it a little more difficult. Discussion as to whether to hit and roll under the blue that they've just thrown. Also talk of which turn to throw at this rock. It seems to be that they're going to try and hit and roll under, but we shall find out here in a moment. Nonetheless, Scott Jones definitely has to get rid of one of these blues. And he's throwing a ton of weight here. Maybe trying to clip the back of the thrown stone, or just pick it, I guess. Discussion now where to put this draw for Ed Sear. Don't want to leave a double.
No, you don't want to do that. You freeze to it. You're opening the door to only get one. But if you go anywhere else, you draw in behind your blue one. That's back four. Same thing. So if you try to draw to the other side, you're leaving a double potential. So really, I think that's all they have.
Yeah, although there is still quite a bit of talk about it here now.
And to the talk, is it the draw? But by the broom placement, I think they're playing the hit. So I mean, make the yellow go away and hope that your 2 is still in play at the end.
Yeah, which once again, in the first end we talked about, Scott Jones chose the conservative option, taking the 1 in the first end, which is sensible, but seemingly Ed Sear is taking a similar notion, just hitting, that's the safe option. You sit 2, and Scott Jones has got to have a bit of a thought about what his last rock's going to be. So I think this is a nice board weight hit. Going all the way in here for line, coming off the center. Remember how much this has curled so far.
Yeah.
Right in this spot. And he'll stay in. Sit 2. I believe it seems that Scott Jones may have resigned himself to giving them 2. I'm not sure what much else choice he's got, so he's just going to hit this. And then Ed Sear has to make his last shot. Once again, weights up. Closer to a peel weight. Just get rid of it. And now Ed Sear has an open draw for 2 to finish up this second end of curling here.
It's a skip's deuce.
It is indeed. It is indeed. So slowly but surely, we mentioned it might be a little more conservative, might be a little more clean in the first few ends here. It is a 10-end game. So this end was a little more intricate than the last one, certainly, and not as much of an open exchange of hits, but still a relatively simple one for all the strategists at home, and for us here at the Capital Inter Club.
$14.5, so that should be just top house.
And a good draw from Skip Ed Sear of Team Sear from the Capital Inter Club. Scores the deuce for his team in the second end here play. So the score is now 2-1 for Team Sear over Scott Jones from Curl Moncton in going into the third end now. So while we await Alec Kyle to throw this first rock of the end, just if you're in New Brunswick and you're not that far away from Fredericton, or if you're in the Fredericton area, feel free to drop by the Capital Inter Club. The lounge here is absolutely gorgeous, newly renovated. Pebbler's Pub is fantastic. Come get yourself some great local draft and craft beer. Or whatever beverage of your choice. And there'll be some lovely people here waiting to serve you. Once again, great volunteers and great staff here at the Capital Inter Club hosting this event this week and this weekend.
And don't forget, too, Friday at 4:30 we have happy hour.
That's the big thing for this weekend. So anyone looking forward,
yeah,
You want to end your work week with some curling and happy hour? I don't know if it gets much better than that.
But it does. It does. Then you have the maritime kitchen party from presented by Grimross, 9 to 1 p.m. Friday night. It's free admission. Just show up and it'll be a time. We've got Ivan Daigle. I guess he's a
Local musician.
Local musician. I remember the manager here talking about him. He was featured in Canada's Got Talent, I believe. So was a finalist in that. So it'll definitely be a kitchen party.
So drop on by. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good Friday to me. Sounds like a pretty good time to come on down to the Capital Winter Club. And if you haven't seen the newly renovated lounge yet, feel free to come on and see that. Happy hour, a good draw curling, and then you dive right into the Maritime Kitchen Party, which is free to attend with some good music as well from a local artist. Cannot get much better than that at a curling event in New Brunswick at all. So, Team Sear here in a pretty good position starting the third end with the center guard and the rock top button. Rob Daly's going to be asked to come and freeze to that rock in the house. And perhaps even from the get-go, this end is a little more tricky and a little more interesting than the second end. So we may be in for a doozy this end, but we shall see. Just taps that blue a little, but still a pretty good shot. Ed Sears asking for a tight guard. If it slips in a little, that's not bad. But definitely want to put this in a good spot to try and force Scott Jones's hand into starting to clear some rocks when he can. He can't yet, as the 5 rock rule is what we're following, what we have been for a while here now. Ed Sears putting his broom beside the rock here, but that guard may be better a little deeper than that.
Well, anywhere in that point, tightens closes the hole off, and 2, if Scott does decide to run a stone in, well, then it's going to be one of your own stones, so it might stick around. But I think they're just going to elect to do the double peel here and try to open everything up.
Yep. So now, once again, if you count them up, that's 5 rocks gone, so we can start clearing the front here if you're Scott Jones. And Brian King will be asked to do that. Rob Daly sweeping. Normally when it's off and on like this, it's pretty good, and it is.
And sticks around for far corner guard, so deuce definitely still in play for Scott.
Anybody keeping stats at home? Put a 5 on that. That's just about as good as you're ever going to get.
They don't let you do that anymore. But yeah, but yes, that was a pretty good one. And Ed recognizing that could come into play, so he's going to ask Chris there to play the hit and roll for a guard. Even if it rolls into the house, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a second blue rock in play.
Yeah. It's just about how aggressive you want to play this if your team's here. If you roll into the house with this shot, as you said, it's not bad, but it definitely changes the dynamic of the end. And may get the yellow on the way out.
Nope.
And even if he was, it was going back on his own blue anyways. The way that rock was going. So Brian King going to be asked to put up a corner guard here. That yellow Rob Daly threw earlier is in a pretty good spot for Scott Jones. Nice and easy. This side of center might be a little slow just to start with, but it'll get into the keener path as it finishes. And that's a fine spot for that corner guard. Oh, Ed's here having a thought about what to do with.
I think there's enough spacing between the two of them. You can clear everything out, but
Just going to elect for the peel, apparently. Maybe catch one of them on the way back. Just why he's getting Alex Robichaud to throw this in turn. Clockwise rotation. It's pretty close. Just missing that shot.
just missed it.
You peeled the guard and you're sitting shot, but now Scott Jones is gonna try and hit and roll over, split the rings. Leave no double. And that's the goal anyway, so we'll see here. Jeremy Millett makes this lovely hit and roll. Nice control weight. Just curling up. And he'll sit for the nose hit. Not the plan, but still not a bad result. Alex Robichaud going to try and get the double, I believe. Right out of his hand, it's curling, however. So just hit and roll right on top of that yellow, and that's good. That's a good result.
It's a good miss.
Yes.
It's a good miss.
Yeah. That's a fortuitous error.
Now, if I can only do that on a Tuesday or Thursday night league play, that'd be great.
Yes, we'd all ask if we could do that on Tuesday.
Missed the right way.
Absolutely. Just trying to pick this out and
Gets
get rid of
everything going.
Pretty good. And now this end, suddenly, ladies and gentlemen, is remember when I said it might be a little more tricky this end? Well, here we are. And while we may have had some pretty darn good shots these past couple shots, we're back to square one here now with an open house. And Ed Sear throwing a draw in now. Still early days. It's only the third end, but still some pretty good curling from these teams so far. So that's always a good sign.
No panic from the brushers, so good indication that it's top house button area and just a light scrub in and
Nice shot, Skipper. That's all a brusher can ask for is a bit of a break there for a little while. Enjoy it while you can there, boys. You might need that energy later. You never know. Scott Jones is going to throw his hit, I believe, with the out turn or the counterclockwise rotation. Once again, similar to the rest of the team, throwing a little down weight. But, like the rest of the team, makes the shot pretty well. So there you go. So now Ed Sear will come and make the hit. The anything you can do, I can do just as well idea. Throw a little more weight than Scott Jones, but is already on the rock. Probably rolling here, which it does. Stays in though, so nothing wrong with that. Seems as if there might have been something on the bottom of its sear slider, on the bottom of that rock, maybe, perhaps. Sweepers cleaning the path for Scott Jones, and Ed Sear wiping off his slider, looking back, thinking, what happened to that? Nonetheless, as I said, it was a pretty good outcome, so Scott Jones will elect to blank this end. Out of his hand, sweeper just cleaning, that's always a good sign. Now on it. And seemed to have curled up on Team Jones there, once looking at the ice. Not sure what happened to that rock, but nonetheless, Team Scott Jones scores 1 in this third end. Seems
It did seem to take a big jump just past the center of the ice there.
always unfortunate, but these things happen in curling, and we have a tie game, so maybe not the outcome they wanted, but still a pretty good place going into this fourth end.
Yeah.
So I would hazard a guess to say that this may be a little more of an aggressive end, and I would take a wild guess that this is probably going to be a center guard, and it will be. Calling for a 3-zone guard, close to the house.
And you notice where he wants it too, right on the Canada Cup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tickets for the Canada Cup here in Fredericton next November, or this November, I guess it is now, will be going on sale mid to late February.
Yeah, so definitely pick those up. It'll be at the Aitken Center at the University of New Brunswick here in Fredericton. So be sure to check that out. The patch
We'll be here.
Patch will be right here, right where that Canada Cup sign is, right there. So you could definitely be here in this building with some, once again, as I mentioned earlier, fantastic renovations to the lounge, and with the Pebblers Pub downstairs now as well. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that action with one of the best tournaments you can come and watch for curling right here in New Brunswick, in our capital city. Alex Kyle coming around, the center guard that Rob Daly has just put up. And if you're wondering why Stephen hasn't updated you on the other sheets yet, it's because this game's going a little quicker than the other ones,
Yeah.
say the least.
Sheet 3 did finish the third end. Rene was forced to 1. He had a double hit and try to roll out, and it just didn't roll far enough. Kane has a mess going on 1, and Magic Man Trevor Hansen's making the Roach boys work there.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a mess on sheet 1. Let's just put it this way: there's a plethora of guards out front, and 4 guards out front and four rocks in behind. So definitely a mess over there for Team Kane and Team Odeshaw in the third end. But here on ice 4, with Team Sear throwing the blue stones and Team Jones throwing yellow. Tied in the fourth. Good curling so far. Alex Kyle's going to be throwing a draw in around this guard. Kind of forced to do so with the Yellowstone in the back of the rings, and with one sweeper, don't know where the other one went, but it's going to come light, which is definitely not the preferred outcome here, to say the least, but nonetheless, Scott Jones is going to call a come around. Try and put it top 8. It's probably the best spot for it. Try and bury that rock and really start to put some pressure on teams here, but see how Brian King throws this draw here now. So once again, at this point, if you've been paying attention, we've started to learn some of the paths on this sheet. Some of which are slower, some of which are faster, and it seems to me that this side doesn't necessarily curl as much coming towards ice 5, where there is no curling, but nonetheless, that curls all the way around both of those guards. Thus, Ed Sear definitely making the proper decision in trying to peel both of these. Chris Wagner's going to be asked to make the double peel. Give his team a little bit of breathing room to work with here now in the fourth end.
Ed just doing a quick check to make sure 5 rocks have been delivered.
Well, we've all been there. We've all been there. Definitely, even people who, now that we've had the 5 rock rule in for a few years now, still got to double check and make sure we're doing our kindergarten count 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So even I couldn't do it there for a second. So that just goes to show how hard it is sometimes. And we'll make the peel, but the shooter stays in a pretty rough spot. A lot of sweeping of the ice going on here now after the rock's been thrown, but I don't know how much of that was the ice. But Brian King's going to throw another draw here now, possibly guard. Rob Daly on it right away. Trying to put it in about a 3 guard, it seems. Both sweepers on it now. I'm just trying to go for line at this point. Might not be in as far as you'd like it, but the line's most important in these situations. So that's a good shot. Chris Wagner will be asked again to throw the double peel. Sweeping for line right away. And Sid gets both of the back ones. All right.
Well,
might not have been the call, but
not the call, but very good outcome.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, definitely takes some pressure off the skipper back there. So may not be what he wanted, but I don't think he'll complain about that one. But once again, despite seeing one of those good shots come down here now, Scott Jones has got to draw around 2 guards here. Which, as much as there's no longer 2 of his own stones, he's still in a pretty good spot without Hammer here now.
Yeah, he still has that center guard to get around. So
this is
little heavy by all indications. Not too bad though.
We might receive some more indications here in a second. Yeah, heavy. Yeah, that's back button, but in a decent spot, all right. Alex Robichaud is going to be asked to freeze to this yellow stone. It is buried, so you kind of have to, if you're Ed Sear, you kind of have to try and freeze to that stone. Seems to be a bit heavy. Sweeper's off of it. Not looking very happy, but starting to slow down here now. Scott Jones just sweeps that through.
And that's all it takes is just being up that, 4 feet more, and it just hangs right out there.
Yeah, well, once again, we were talking we were appreciating our ice makers for this event. They're fantastic. Chris Chapley and Joe Mason both doing a really good job this weekend. But you can give that little bit more weight on the end of those draws, and they won't stick around. The ice is pretty quick, as we said earlier. It's starting to get up to speed here now, so definitely got to be focusing on the draw weight to try and make those draws perfectly. Speaking of trying to make the draw perfectly, here's Team Scott Jones, and may not be perfect, but that's still a pretty decent spot for that stone. Can't complain about it. Although, if you were to complain about it, it's that Alex Robichaux has this shot here that Ed Sears called, which is still the freeze that he had on his last attempt. Sweepers sweeping it here at the end. Just coming down. And it will outcount the yellow stone that Jeremy Millet had just thrown. Discussion here about what best to do.
Right now, Scott's, in the catbird seat, trying to steal a couple of center guards. Has a blue rock that, yes, is in the house, but it's effectively a guard, for him. And if he sticks another one out there, playing a hit or anything on that runs the risk of jamming it back into the yellow that's sitting back button. The guard's the safest call.
Yep.
Doesn't disturb anything in the front and just adds more rocks in front.
Yeah, which is the call here in the first skip stone for Scott Jones here in the fourth end. We'll be throwing a 2 guard right at the edge of the bottom of Fredericton there. Here, that's where they seem to have wanted it. So we'll see if put it on the bottom of that City of Fredericton logo. It's a little heavy. Might be tapping this a little. But if it just freezes to it, which it doesn't, but it's still not a bad spot.
It closes the draw off.
He's got a conundrum here about how he's going to make this run, if that's what he wants to throw, which seems he does. It's just about which way he comes at it and which way you need to come at it. Try and hit that Yellowstone. But upon further review, Alex Robichaux and Ed Sear decide that maybe the option's best to try and draw and maybe get to that Yellowstone. And if you're not shot, definitely making sure that Scott Jones doesn't have a chance to sit more than the one he already is. And it might give you another option for what you can throw on your last shot, but still need to make this draw here in the fourth end. Ed Sear's first stone. Sweepers on it. Going for line right now. It will just tick
wreck on the guard there.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunate for Team Sear, but not only did it tick the guard, but the rock they ticked is now right where Scott Jones wanted his first rock to be.
Yeah, and and it took the potential tap back of the blue one in the house
Away,
away.
but it may have given you still a nose hit. Just now you're hitting two of your blues. But
Yeah,
Scott Jones is gonna try and put the squeeze here on Ed's here and put him in some pressure for his last rock, which is all you can ask for without the hammer in an even end.
it's definitely a dance to see who has hammer in eight basically.
Yeah, and basically trying to see who's gonna come into the last few ends of this game with the hammer. Really sweeping, trying to get this by. Now just trying to tap it, which it does, but blue's still second shot. But it may have taken away that double run back I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of options for Ed Sear, I think he's gonna try and angle this back and double the yellows. When he has his broom at now, try and bring it back. Just clip the yellow in the back. Take your one, I guess. Really.
Pro misses throw this tight because if you're wide at all, you're losing that blue one, and yellow's going to pick up a bundle.
You don't want to start thinking about what happens then, right? So yeah, absolutely. Start thinking of the pro miss, and that's definitely the plan B. Is just run it straight back and get it out. But the call seemed to be to try and get it across the face, which, as you rightly point out, is a little bit of a danger. But we shall see what happens here. Just gets it, but won't push it far enough. So it is one yellow for Team Scott Jones, putting on up 3-2 over Ed Sear in going into the fifth end of this game.
And sheets 1 and 2 have finally finished their third end. They're playing 4 now. Ottershaw took one in the third to go up 2-0 against Ryan Kane, and Trevor took his single in 3, and they're on skip stones on both sheets.
Yeah, so it's 1-1 over there on sheet 2, and over on sheet 3, Grattan and Como are into their fifth. They're in the fourth end, but it is 2-1 still for Grattan. I'm pretty sure Grattan and Como are in their fifth end. They just haven't put up the score yet. So we'll update you with that one when we get it. But not always the quickest to put up a score. Anyone who's curled in a provincial like this knows that it's not exactly the first thing you think of doing every now and then. So
I think Grattan got 1. Oh, no, he's in the front of it.
Yeah, hard to see when you're standing in front of it there, James. But so Scott Jones has called the center guard again, but over curled, which has happened once or twice with these center guards. But nonetheless, the ice is curly and the ice is quick, and you can't ask for much better than that. So Team Sear is going to try and draw around that guard. And they do, and it's pretty well buried behind that yellow guard, so that's a good shot from lead Alex Kyle.
I think I counted 8 rotations on that stone.
It just tells you need to throw a positive rotation. You know, it's nice, quick, and curly ice. That's for sure. Rob Daly just trying to come down to it, but Calling for the plan B now. Might be a little heavy. Just try and go around this blue stone. And it does get around it. I believe it's shot. Looks from here that it's shot rock.
Judging by the call, a yellow shot, just playing a little bump on the blue.
So Alex Kyle will try and throw a nice draw, which he has. He's thrown some pretty good draws so far this game, so try to do so again. Trying to sit on top of the blue he had already thrown. Seems to have been the plan B, but now that's now plan A. Just a little light. But once again, they're still in a decent spot. But Scott Jones is going to try and freeze to the corner of that blue stone in the house. It's all about just trying to set up something to try and keep them either A from scoring 2, or B try and help you get a steal here in the fifth end for Scott Jones. Scott Jones's team. That's what is going on in his head, but. Team Sears is going to do all they can to try and get a deuce coming into the fifth end break. So Brian King comes up a little light in his draw attempt, but it will sit as a card for now. But it gives Team Sear a chance to get into that 4-foot. Maybe cancel out that yellow rock that's sitting shot right now for Team Jones. Chris Wagner will be asked to draw down to that yellow stone, throwing the out turn and the counterclockwise rotation.
Just waiting for it to pick up the curl there.
It's trying. And we'll move that yellow stone, just barely. But not sure who shot there now. It might still be the yellow rock, but it might be the shooter that Chris Wagner had just thrown. We're not sure from this angle. Nonetheless, Scott Jones is just talking about hitting that. Not much of a risk involved. Brian King will be asked to pretty well nose hit this blue stone. Sweeping for line all the way so far. And we'll pick that blue, which is fine. Chris Wagner asked to draw again here now. Once again, trying to slow down a little and curl. It's trying all right. And it does.
Welded right to it.
That's a pretty darn good shot from Chris Wagner there for Team Sear. Made exactly what the skipper called, and you can't ask for much better than that. So Jeremy Millett will be asked to follow Chris Wagner down with his first stone of the end at Mates Rocks.
And right now it's a race to the button.
Absolutely.
rather than with guards in front, guards behind.
Seems to be over curling here now, but it doesn't. I think that's a pretty good shot from Jeremy Millet. Whether it's shot or not, I'm not sure.
The pick is there. There's definitely enough space in between. The risk is nosing it and nutting the yellow right there. But definitely, I right now the way the game's going, the pick's the way to go. Nobody's really putting guards up and putting two or three on the board. Been a very, very defensive game so far. That's definitely Scott style.
Yeah, we're not gonna beat around the bush on that one.
Definitely Scott and Jeremy style.
But here now there's discussion between mate Alex Robichaud and Ed Sear as to how exactly they're going to play this, but they've come to a conclusion here now after Jeremy had a quick chat with one of our fantastic officials. But now Alex Robichaud throwing this hit, just trying to pick this, and that's a field goal. So swing and a miss from Alex Robichaud in a vital moment, but we'll see if Jeremy Millet and Team Jones can take advantage of that here now. While they have a discussion about what exactly they want to do, have a nice chat, maybe some tea while they're at it. You can get them some cake if they really want it, but
there's Domino's pizza downstairs.
Well, the benefit of coming to the Pebblers Pub, you might have pizza and a nice drink, But they've come to a conclusion. Remember, in the early ends, I gave a forewarning that this game would get a little more intricate, perhaps uncomfortably so for Scott Jones. As we said, his style is typically more conservative in terms of the defensive side of the game. But as you can see here, it's a little more messy than we've seen so far this game. So Jeremy Millet just informing the sweepers, Rob Daly and Brian King, on what the call is. Always good to do when you're throwing an important shot in one of these ends. Good team communication is always important. Seem to be calling a tight center guard. But might be a little light, but as I mentioned earlier, sometimes line is more important for these kinds of shots. And it finishes on a pretty good line to defend that yellow stone in the rings.
Definitely takes away the pick attempt, and now you see Ed, he's just calling for the peel.
Which is, of course, the sensible option. So Alex Robichaud throwing another shot at peel weight here now. Just getting the one guard. Would have liked to have gotten two there, but can't always make everything perfectly, Got to give the other guys a chance sometimes. Maybe not what Alex had in mind, but nonetheless.
No.
So Scott Jones is going to come down for his first rock of the end. Here in Skips Rocks in our fifth end of this your feature game here at the Tankard here in Frederick, New Brunswick at the Capital Winter Club. Scott Jones playing, I believe, the same shot that Jeremy just did. But that is not the weight Jeremy just threw, and not the path Jeremy just threw. So we shall see where it ends, but it's coming down and it's really trying to dig in here. And that is arguably a better spot for that guard, but
It makes the play to the button a whole lot harder.
yeah, it definitely makes the draw a little more difficult, a little more tricky for Ed Sear and his squad. But him and Alex Robichaud are discussing some options here now. You can always draw in around the that guard that Scott Jones has just thrown. Ed may be inclined to try and throw an upweight hit through that port, maybe tick the yellow, and you might roll into the house. Hit the top yellow that Scott Jones had just thrown, and hit that yellow guard that's in front of the blue stone outside of the house, and maybe roll in. But as I believe rightly Alex Robichaud points out, that most likely just jams and sits in front of the rock you're trying to eventually get rid of. So listening to that wise counsel, Ed's going to come down now and try and throw a run back and try and pick out that yellow stone and also get rid of the guard Scott Jones has just thrown. Of course, his shooter will stay out in front, but getting rid of that yellow is the main goal right now for Team Sear. So that's what Skip Ed Sear is going to try and do on his first rock here in the fifth. Calling for line all the way. Just misses that yellow rock, but once again, putting the blue out in front there might help him on his last one.
Definitely something to raise.
In terms of options, at least, right?
Yeah.
Scott Jones now considering, okay, well, this is a similar situation to what we were left with before he threw, so do you guard again? Do you try and draw in? That's the options they have in front of them. Do you try to perhaps guard the port? If you think they might try and pick it through the port, which is definitely the more difficult option, but it might be there. But with a little bit of team input from the front end, you're halfway down the sheet, and some discussion between Jeremy and Scott, it seems like they're just going to try and put it top 12, was the idea, behind that blue rock. So this is Scott Jones's last rock in this fifth end. Once again, just trying to put it at the top of the house.
Indications from Brian King right away is that it's halfway tight.
Line's pretty good right now, but needs to curl for where they seem to have wanted it. Brian King's going to sweep it a little for curl. And it is finishing. And it will come pretty well half buried, maybe a third buried behind that blue stone. We are at an angle from the sheet, so we can't give you the exact position of it. But Ed Sear and Alex Robichaud have a chance to maybe use that yellow rock Scott Jones had just thrown, which was the risk for that shot, and try and throw the double with that rock. But the discussion may be, do you play the run again, which may very well be the safest option.
The run, to me, is the safer option because it's your own stone you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. Which seems to be, it's again with the wise counsel of Alex Robichaud's mate. You always want some good advice, and with some discussion between Ed and Alex, they've decided that that's what they're going to try is the run from the blue. Just try and pick out that yellow stone, that pesky yellow stone that they've been trying to get at for the last half of this end. So last rock of the fifth end here. Ed Sear throwing blue stones. just a little tight, and Scott Jones will take one going into the fifth end break here in our second draw, our 7:30 draw at the Tankard. We'll be right back after a short break. Ooh. All right, so welcome back to our 7:30 draw 2 of action here at the New Brunswick Men's Tankard Provincial Finals, where we have Team Scott Jones at Carl Moncton facing off against Team Ed Sear from the Capital Winter Club here in Fredericton. Hometown team, one of many in this tournament, it must be said, one of two. And it is 4-2 for Scott Jones. As Rob Daly throws the first rock, you'll notice Team Scott Jones is throwing the yellow rocks if you're just joining us, and Team Ed Sear throwing the blue stones here in the sixth end of play. 10-end game. We've just finished up our fifth end break, and both sheets 3 and 4 are in fifth end play here now.
Yeah, everybody else has finished up their fifth end. Ryan Kane is up 3-2 against Terry Ottershaw. And it looks like it's... they haven't updated the score yet on 2.
It was 1-1.
It was 1-1. We'll wait for that. And it's a 4-1 lead for James Grattan over Rene Como.
Nonetheless, a lot of good curling going on here at the Capital Winter Club. So once again, come on down and find us from wherever you are in the province or wherever you are listening. There's plenty of drinks and stuff to go around, plenty of food to go around downstairs.
It's a happening spot. I went down there during the break to talk to some of the players. Anyway, it is packed. Great turnout here tonight for draw number 2. It blows me away to see how this place is booming right now.
And as we mentioned earlier, it's a newly renovated lounge downstairs. Looks absolutely fantastic. Tons of beer on tap, draft beer, local draft and craft beer. You got to go and check it out. Peddler's Pub downstairs is definitely a happening spot, and probably one of the best places in the province to be sitting and watching curling in the dead of winter in New Brunswick. There's not much better you can ask for to do.
And if you're not a beer drinker, we've got Coca-Cola products on tap down there as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we welcome everyone here. Curling is known as an inclusive sport, and Capital Winter Club's no different. Come one, come all down to the Capital Winter Club, if I do say so myself. So as Alex Kyle throws this second stone for him of this end, I've been getting, the phone's been really off the hook here during this draw, but I got a certain text from a certain all-star coach, really. I must say I may be a little biased, but Daryl Nallen is watching the stream right now. The Daryl Nallen.
The Daryl Nallen.
I think Russ Howard described him on TSN one time as the coach of all the all-star teams in New Brunswick at the national competitions. So not my words. Those are Russ Howard's words. You can take it up with him. But he's coaching Team Andrea Crawford, who just won the New Brunswick Provincial Scotties Tournament of Hearts here this past weekend from at the Riverside Club out in Quispan. And they'll be off to the Nationals there in a little while with Daryl Nallen as their coach. So shout out to Daryl, who, as I said, I'm biased. He's also my coach with Team Josh Nallen out of Carl Moncton. So shout out to him watching the live stream. Hopefully not tired of my voice yet. He's got plenty more draws to where that came from this week. But back to the action here now. Chris Wagner throwing at what's started to be a bit of a Great Wall of China back here for Team Scott Jones.
Yeah, no. Ed and his crew, they've kind of come out flat here at the start of the fifth.
They might have come out flat, but the beer out of the tap downstairs certainly isn't.
No.
But there's definitely a lot of rocks and behind the tee line here to start the sixth end. Team Sear definitely looking to get a deuce here in the sixth end, and Team Jones obviously looking to keep that from happening. So they're going to be just trying to get rid of this rock in whatever means necessary. So Brian King at second here for Team Scott Jones is going to be asked to get rid of this rock. Get rid of one of the back stones, doesn't really matter as long as the blue goes. Which it does. Takes a couple of the back ones with them, but as I said,
Gets rid of all the catchers in the back.
yeah, those stones are just problem stones for Team Scott Jones in this end. All they do is help Ed Sear, and as you can see, as the words come out of my mouth, Ed Sear calls a freeze to the yellow stone in the back of the house in the 8-foot. Chris Wagner's going to be asked to throw that freeze. And just for your entertainment value, really, it's this rock was a 15-7 hog-to-hog time, and it's slipping into the top of the ring, so that's some pretty darn good ice, if you ask me, in terms of speed. Especially for the sixth end. So on sheet 2, Roach and Hansen have finally updated their score over there. It's 2-1 in the sixth end for Darren Roach's team. Whilst on our sheet here, on sheet 4, Jeremy Millett and Scott Jones are once again discussing what to do here. Yeah, I mean, for Scott Jones, you're up 2 points. You can just get rid of it if you really want.
This is all about preventing Ed from getting 2.
So you can get rid of it. I mean, I don't know if he ever would want to draw around. So yeah, he's calling the hit, which I would say is a pretty sensible call.
Yeah, right now, yeah, the force for 1's in play. So just make any blue that lands in there disappear.
That's the goal. So Jeremy Millett will throw that hit with his first stone of this sixth end. Once again, Team Scott Jones out of Curl Moncton and Team Ed Sear out of Capital Winter Club battling it out here in the sixth end to play. And Jeremy's rock will also stay in. So one would like to say it's helpful for Team Scott Jones, but it really isn't. If Ed Sear decides to start throwing some freezes over in that left-hand side of the sheet on your screen, it might get a little tricky for Scott Jones, but Alex Robichaud is going to try and throw the freeze to the yellow rock on the right-hand side of the sheet here now. Sweeper saying it's a little heavy. I would say it's a little heavy. Ed Sear said it's a little heavy. And Scott Jones, just to make sure, you never know.
And it's just through the house.
Just through. So Team Sear needs to start leaving some rocks in the house here, try and help them out. But in these kinds of situations where the team with all the rocks in the house, you got to start thinking about, okay, well, sure, I have all these rocks in play, but that's not really a good thing anymore. So Scott Jones is going to elect to peel this guard before they get into any unnecessary trouble. And Jeremy Millin will do so with his last rock of the end. And his shooter rolls out. Job well done. And as I mentioned earlier, those 2 yellows on the left side of that sheet, the sheet, is what Ed Sears now playing to. It's the best spot to put a rock if you're trying to make the other team have a hard time getting rid of it.
Alex is just getting caught in that fast spot again.
Yeah, so this blue stone will take the back one, but will stay in. And I said it's open, but with that said, Scott Jones may just select to get rid of it. But he is sitting shot, so that's the only reason he's not just wandered down the ice to get rid of it. He's going to give it a bit of a thought. Going to play the inside out. Well, originally the inside out. Jeremy Millin telling him just to go get in the hack. That's probably putting it a little politely. The broom is down, and they're just going to try and get rid of this blue stone here in Scott Jones's first rock. And a little bit of a flop, but Scott Jones will make the hit. It's here once again, trying to freeze to this yellow stone for his first shot of the end. How are the other sheets looking here, Steve?
Right now, looking over on 1, it's Ottershaw sitting 2. Not a lot of rocks in play in front, but a lot in the 4-foot line, 4-foot area. Sheet 2, wide open. They're just into third stones there. And then there's a bundle of blues for James Grattan on 3 with 1 lone yellow just thrown into the button area.
For shot rock as well.
So, back on our sheet, looks like Ed Sears' team is getting tricked a little bit by the speed of the ice.
Just struggling a little getting back into this 6th end. Always a little tough to get your weight back after the 5th end break, but it's something everyone knows going into the 6th end.
Yeah, stops for shot just didn't curl enough.
So once again here, Scott Jones, and as we've said in his fashion, is going to, rightly so, get rid of this blue rock, which will end up forcing Ed Sear to take his 1, barring some kind of impossible miracle. So I'm definitely just forcing Ed Sear to 1. He'll get rid of that rock with a little bit of a flop. Ed Sear puts his broom down, and the skipper goes to throw his bread and butter, which is definitely the draw of the 4-foot for full 4 for 1. Meanwhile, we mentioned on sheet 3 that Rennie Como's team had just put their 1 yellow in the back button on sheet 3, and James Grattan said, "All right, play on.
Hold my beer and watch this."
And,
and he just welded the blue one right onto it.
Not only did he weld it right onto it, it's on the pin and half buried in a spot where I'm pretty sure you can't get rid of that rock. So that's pretty good from James Grattan.
We got a big scrub going on here to
hold the line
to hold the
and
line. Looks like it's going to come up a little short.
Will it stay in for second? Is the question.
And I don't think it did.
So that seems to me to be a steal of at least one, maybe two here for Scott Jones. We'll see as the score goes up. Eds here not very happy with that, but such is life. Still plenty of curling to come.
And I'm the forever optimist. It's only one. Like, take two, give up one, take two, you're back in it.
Exactly, and you know, you say you're an optimist, but that's plenty possible. As I said, once again, we'll see what happens when the score goes up, which they've neglected to put up. So, you know, yeah, boys, mind putting the score up there for us? Try and help us out a little here. But when the score goes up, we'll let you know. So Rob Daly's gonna keep on keeping on. Team Scott Jones playing their style, doing their thing. Throwing a center guard again. If it's in, it's in. If it isn't, it isn't. Meanwhile, Rene Como makes an absolute
pistol.
Matt McGee pistol of a shot. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we told you that James Grattan made a beauty of a shot on the pin, frozen, and I said it was impossible to get rid of it. Well, Rene Como said, "Hold my beer," and went and through peel weight, papered that rock James Grattan had just thrown, just picked it out just enough to score his one with that lone yellow rock he had in the house, and scores the one for his team in what can only be described as a clutch shot by the skipper on sheet 3. So that score is now 4-2 going into the 7th. And over here on our featured sheet on Ice 4 here at the Capital Winter Club, we Rob Daly, as I said, is just keeping on. And that Yellowstone is making me eat my words here now. It's right on the button. And this will be possibly to it. The sweepers are saying it's heavy, so it may be past it, but we'll see. Not quite what Rob Daly had in mind. Nonetheless, not too bad. Nothing going too off the rails yet for Team Scott Jones, so no. Meanwhile, Alex Kyle over here, who's had a good game, it's fair to say, is throwing a corner guard here now. Try and set up the end for his team and give them the best chance they can at getting a deuce or even a 3-ender out of this end, which with the 5-rock rule and with some good shot making is definitely possible. So don't rule them out of this game yet. Team Heads here definitely has the capability of giving their head a shake and just putting their head down, folks, and trying to get their 2 and their 3, or their 3 rather. So we'll see how this end plays out. But in the meantime, Brian King's going to get ready to throw his first rock of the end. It's fair to say that so far the ice has kept up its speed. Getting into these late ends, you never know if it's going to slow down or not. But so far, so good. Which is just a testament to the ice crew we got at this event. So kudos to them. Brian King's going to put that Yellowstone right in just biting the 8-foot there. And now it's about, all right, Alex Kyle, set up the end right for you. So can't ask much more of him. So now Chris Wagner will be given the job of starting to put this end into motion for Team Sear. Make a hit and roll here and get one hopefully buried behind one of those corner guards, and that's a pretty good spot for teams here. Either guard will do. Nose, maybe not, but nonetheless, not the easiest rock to get rid of. Team Scott Jones is sitting 2. We'll still elect to try and just take out this blue stone. So this is our second draw of the tournament at 7:30. It started at 7:30 here tonight at the Capital Winter Club. But over the next couple of days, Thursday and Friday at least, the draws are at 1 and 7. So please feel free to pop by the Capital Winter Club here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, to try and watch some of this fantastic curling we got going on. Lots of good games, lots of good shot making. And as we mentioned earlier, and as Stephen alluded to, downstairs is it's a bumping place right now. So if you're looking to have some fun and watch some great curling, please come down to the Capital Winter Club and enjoy some good beverages, good refreshments, great people, and great food as well, and some great curling, of course. Just gonna roll.
Keep rolling. No, not that far.
Yeah, that's not quite where you want it, but the good news for Team Sears that blue stone is
It's
pretty well behind the guard.
Somewhat undercover.
Yeah.
If it was a lefty throwing, completely undercover.
But it's a righty throw.
It's a righty throwing, so it does peek out there a little bit. They're electing to just play the peel,
which is the sensible call. The conservative Scott Jones call, as we might put it, and almost gets the back one. Rolls to the center. So put our thinking caps on here for Team Sear, and just hit and roll and split the rings. Hope for a couple of misses, and you never know. You're still set up pretty darn good in this end if you can make a good hit and roll or a good freeze. Of course, the danger with the freeze in this situation is whether you leave a double over those yellows. But Team Ed Sear just looking to put another rock in the rings here now. With a lightweight hit. Gotta hit about half of this rock. They're trying to... Well, Alex Robichaud was wide. So plan B.
That's a couple times that first stone has really thrown them for a loop. So I don't know if it's Alex or if it's the rock itself.
Which is always a fair question. And in these early draws, these teams haven't had too good of a chance to scout out some of the rocks and what they're doing yet. So that's definitely a possibility, right? So Alex Robichaud definitely a really good curler, and just like all the curlers playing here in this final 8. But you never know what's going on down there. Sometimes it's the rocks, sometimes there's a spot on the ice. You never know. But they should know down there. So if they haven't noticed that one, they definitely should. Not quite what Scott Jones asked for from Jeremy Millett, but Ed Sear, once again, this isn't an awful spot for Team Sear here. It's almost like I'm a poet.
Yeah, and
really.
Didn't know it.
Oh, but we've got the dad jokes for you here tonight.
Don't worry, folks. I'm here all week.
We don't have a tip jar up here, but we might have to start one for all the raunchy jokes we're going to have here now this week and weekend. But once again, folks, Sheet 4 is live streamed for the entirety of this event So if you're watching right now, please keep on continuing on watching the coverage, whether you're at home, at work, traveling, wherever you are, and you cannot make it to the Capital Winter. If you can get to the Capital Winter Club here in Fredericton, strongly encourage you to do so. As we mentioned, it's a fantastic spot right now. But if you can't, please keep watching this live coverage we've got for you. You know, you might get tired of us, but you won't get tired of the curling, because the curling is just that good, ladies and gentlemen. So once again, just keep tuning in and encourage others. You can share the link on Facebook, on social media, text message it. It is Bell Let's Talk Day, so
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
you do get a chance to support a good cause while texting your friend or your family member a link to the live stream for some fantastic curling, even if they don't watch curling. So I strongly encourage you to do that as well. But nonetheless, here we are in this seventh end of curling in our 7:30 draw, our second draw of the tournament here at the Final 8 for men's provincials at the Capital Winter Club. Alex Robichaud throwing a draw here now. They discussed it. They want to put it in the top of the forefoot, but if it isn't there, once again, it's not a bad position for Team Sear right now. I gotta stress that. So as much as you might have, that might not have been Plan A. And Team Jones has got to be careful here now. There's a couple of blues sitting in there. And if you leave those blues unchecked, they may come back to haunt Team Jones.
Yeah.
But we shall see, as we mentioned. A score of 2 is pretty good here for Team Sear. But a score of 3 would be obviously ideal going into the 8th. But Team Jones is going to do their darndest to try and keep that from happening. So him and Scott Jones and Jeremy Millett are going to be discussing some options here. Just a hit and roll, it seems. Board weight seems to be the call. Scott Jones is just going to try and hit and roll off of that back blue. Now, if you make this perfectly and roll kind of behind the yellow that's already there on the left-hand side of your screen, that's pretty good. But if you don't make it perfect, you're still got a couple of rocks sitting around that forefoot area that could be dangerous if someone freezes to it.
Yeah, but right now it's all about shrinking that scoring area.
Yeah.
Right, the scoring area is, to the forefoot, and, if he makes this hit and flop just perfect, now it's, to the button.
So, as we said, the danger is looming. However, got rid of that blue stone, which was the goal. It didn't roll quite as far as they would have liked to, but Ed Sear's got a couple of shots he has to make, as anyone does in curling, but there's definitely some options here for Ed Sear to try and get his deuce. 3 is pretty well out of view at this point. However, the deuce is definitely there for the taking if Team Sear can get their hands on it. So we'll see what happens here in this 7th end. This is Ed Sear's first skips rock of the end. And they do have hammer in an uneven end, but nonetheless, as we mentioned, 2 is the goal. 3 is the bonus, and 1, we won't go there yet.
Yeah.
There's a good chance for 2 here for Ed Sear. So,
with Daryl being your coach, does he do the whole what was the outcome? What's an okay outcome, and what's the outcome you don't want?
Well, yeah, it's what's the positive miss? What's the goal? What are you okay with? And what is just plain unacceptable? Like what is the option you want to avoid at all cost? Is the message. But it gives you a lot of leeway, right? If you focus on what is acceptable, then that's okay. Obviously, you always want to achieve your goal in every end. But if you don't, you can't get down on yourself. If you've only scored one, for example, with the hammer, that's an acceptable outcome depending on the situation. And you got to just put your head down and keep on going. These are 10 end games, plenty of opportunity to get back into a game. And if you achieve your goal, fantastic, right? But that's the idea there. So Scott Jones is definitely going to try and keep Ed Sear from achieving his goal of 2, however. So Brian King's come down for the discussion as well. While Rob Daly stands back here, rather pensive it seems.
Yeah, no,
Professor Daly.
Yeah, this is good team dynamic. You don't need 4 guys
No.
discussing one shot. Usually what it is the second will go down there and basically, what are your shots? This is the one you want to throw, and then come throw it.
Yeah, that seems to be the dynamic, at least for Team Jones, and as you point out, is usually the right dynamic. Some teams, second won't even venture down and leave it to the mate, and if they ask for your input, come on down. So with Brian King's input, Team Jones has now decided on a shot. They're going. Jeremy Melissa seems to be pointing out that they're going to put it in the 4-foot here now. Maybe if you get a piece of your yellow stone behind that blue rock that's biting the 4-foot, that's a pretty good option. However, it may leave some kind of a shot for Ed Sear to maybe get a thin double at least, but we shall see where it ends up. All possibilities right now in this 7th end going into Ed Sear's last rock, which is all you can ask for is a skip. Give me a chance, boys. So Scott Jones comes up heavy. Now, is there a shot for more than 2? I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's kind of hopeful to try and get your 3 here. Yeah, for anyone thinking about the round of the horn, it might be. I mean, you can think about it, but I don't know if the angles are there in terms of. I mean, Ed Sear down there is an engineer by trade, so he'd know more about the angles than I would, really.
I think the call is just a hit and flop off the one that Scott just threw. It looks like that blue one is sitting second shot.
Well, he's thrown the outturn here now, try and get it thin, I think.
Okay.
And
so he may be trying the.
They might be trying to squirt it through. And hits it a little too thick. But nonetheless, gets at least 1. Alex Robichaud would be inclined to say 2.
And Jeremy would say, no, just 1, and we'll have the officials to come out here and take a look.
It's the first measure of the game, folks. Very, very exciting. Really, we get to watch the official come out here maybe, unless Jeremy, they've indicated for a measure.
Jeremy indicated for a measure, so.
So we shall see if it was indeed 2 for Team Sear, if Skipper made his last shot perfectly.
And unlike the juniors, we do have we are using the stick throughout the event. Junior Nationals this year, they were using the lasers for a little bit. I heard some rumblings that they weren't that great with the laser, but technology is a wonderful thing sometimes.
With umpires who aren't used to it as well, right?
Yeah.
So that'll always take time. Innovation has always been a part of the game, and especially recently, but not everything comes into effect perfectly instantaneously. So we shall see. Our official has come on out onto the ice to do the measure.
So that's Lauren Bolter.
I don't know why Alex, who's curled for quite a while, is standing on the wrong side of the measuring stick. But he's now on the right side after getting a little cuff on the ear from the official. I also don't know why the official is on that side for the exact same reason that Alex was on that side, but, you know, you can't have it perfectly all the time. Once again, our officials are volunteers, as all of them are across the country, and we appreciate their time they dedicate to the sport of curling. Hard to have a good event and an event like this without them. So now we will have, as the official gets on the proper side of the stick, we will have our deciding measurement here to see if it is 2 for Team Sear. It is
2. 2 blue.
2 blue in the 7th end for Ed Sears' team out of the Capital Winter Club. And it is now going to be 5-4 for Team Scott Jones, who has the hammer in this 8th end, up 1, which is a pretty good spot for Team Jones. However, that 2 is going to be feeling pretty good right now for Team Sear.
Especially after how the 6th end ended.
Yes,
Started and ended. So this is wind back in their sails.
Exactly. And reminder of the scoreboard, ladies and gentlemen. The last score was in the 2nd end for Team Sear, so that deuce is pretty good. And they've only given up 1s. Yes, some of them were steals. 3 ends in a row, which hurts. But they're only 1. They're only down 1 in the 8th end, and as we said, the Daryl Nowlin would say, you only got to be close coming into the last end. So that's definitely going to be in the mind of Ed Sears' team as lead Alex Kyle puts that guard unfortunately into the rings. Would have wanted that to be out of the rings, of course.
Right on the home hardware sign.
Yes, the Canada Cup. It's coming to Fredericton at the Aitken Centre next, this November, right, as we pointed out. As Stephen mentioned earlier, tickets go on sale soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you want to have your first chance at getting those tickets, make sure you like the Capital Winter Club on Facebook or follow them on Instagram or Twitter to try and make sure you get those tickets first and you hear about when they come on sale first. So make sure you go and find our social media for the Capital Winter Club so that you can have your first chance to try and get those tickets for the Canada Cup when they come on sale, which is coming soon, ladies and gentlemen. So, with that said, here we are. Scott Jones is going to elect to draw around the center guard here now. That Alex Kyle missed the first time, but made the second time. Made it well. As I said, he's been having a good game. One hiccup, isn't too bad, right? How are we looking across our other sheets here?
Well, after 7 ends of play on sheet 3, James Grattan is still up for 2. They blanked 7 on 2, and it's 3-2 now for Magic Man Trevor Hansen. And over on sheet 1, they're just starting the 8th end right now. After 6, it was 4-2 Ryan Kane. And we'll wait for them to update the score over there.
So in this 8th end, Chris Wagner is going to be asked to come around and come down to that yellow stone. Sweeper's on it, halfway down. Our fantastic producer just stepping out for a moment to adjust the cameras for your viewing pleasure. Shout out to all the crew at Bell and 360 Live for live streaming this event. Once again, thank you for watching our coverage here tonight this draw, for the second draw of our men's provincials. Please make sure to tune in as the event goes on, as the week drags on. There are 2 draws tomorrow, 2 draws Friday, and more draws Saturday and Sunday. Tons of fantastic curling, so please make sure you tune in. Please share the link for the live stream if you're watching already. It's been great commentating for you, but we would love more people. Always great to have a good viewing audience, and of course all the curlers and athletes on the ice appreciate everyone supporting them and watching them very much. So once again, try and make sure you share the link for the live stream, as this is where you'll be able to find your coverage for this men's provincials. So Chris Wagner's going to get another shot here.
Yeah, his first shot, he just threw probably about 3 feet too heavy and bounced off and opened to the open, and so Team Jones elected to play the hit and stick, and now they're lying 3.
Funny how that happens. And just gets a little bit of a flop. Not a bad result. It is still a little open. But Team Jones is going to try and get rid of the center guard because that is the problem rock that's controlling the front of these rings, and is how Team Sear would be able to get their steal right now. So Scott Jones sensibly is gonna ask Brian King to get rid of this center guard. And he does. Alex Robichaud is going to try and get rid of this yellow. Interestingly, you could very well go hard for the steal in this end, but Team Sear's not going to do that, and instead is going to hit and roll and sit 2. Which isn't a bad call at all, but it does mean that you're gonna venture to try and force Scott Jones's team 2-1. And as you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah. So yeah, with the loss of the center guard, the play is now the force.
And as we mentioned earlier, if you're Ed Sear right now, if you can force Scott Jones to 1, get your 2. Force him to 1 again.
Well, then Scott Jones wins.
Well, yeah.
And Jeremy makes a pistol of a double there.
Well, so this was what I was saying a second ago here now, is plan for the steal was an option if you put up another center guard, which he had the opportunity to do with sitting shot rock, but didn't. Elected to go for the conservative option, trying to force them to 1. This was the danger of doing that. So Team Sear might be paying the price for that one a little right now, but Alex Robichaud could very well make this double. And he does not. And Team Scott Jones, all of a sudden, Team Sear had a chance to force to 1 or maybe steal, and now Scott Jones is splitting the rings to sit 2.
Going for the as I call it, the junior double, the junior deuce.
Yes.
Out in the wings.
The simplest strategy to play with hammer that you could ever think of. Sweepers, however, really pounding this right here.
Yeah. Rob's calling out a zone 5, so that's about 8 foot, and they needed to go about T-line.
Which the sweepers with good judgment and a good sweep get it there. Wasn't exactly panic stations there, but nonetheless a good sweep and a good judge by them. So now Ed Sear forced to to hit this stone.
Yeah, play the hit and long roll. Try to roll near that yellow stone to hope that when Scott throws his first, he plays a hit and stick, and you can double the two of them off and get out of the end with a blank or with a force of one.
Ed Sears going to throw the out turn of the counterclockwise rotation. Up weight, try and get that long roll, as you mentioned. They will get a roll. It's a pretty good one. So not bad at all. A pretty good shot by Ed Sear for his first rock of this 8th end. Once again, these are 10 end games. So Scott Jones is going to try and get rid of this blue and stick around. Once again, throwing just about a control weight hit. The danger is that it could really curl here. And it really is. Jeremy exercising his lungs here. And Scott Jones will get rid of the stone.
But does roll out.
But does indeed roll out. And as you can tell by Jeremy Melez's shake of the head there a moment ago, and not quite what Team Jones was hoping for, but Team Sear won't be too upset about this outcome here. So they are going to hit and stick. If you roll in to the middle a little, roll out a little, it's okay as long as you're in the rings. Just makes Scott Jones's last shot a little tricky.
There you go.
Ed Sear makes his shot with a little flop inside.
So at this stage, do you hit and stick, go up two with hammer and even ends, or do you hit and roll out?
That is the question, is it not? Yeah, so, you're in the even ends, you're up one with hammer. I mean, obviously, at this level, you want to try and get your deuce in this situation. And I mean, going up one, taking your one isn't bad. You're up two, you got hammer in the even ends. You can't ask for much better than that. But I have a feeling Scott Jones is going to just try and pick this out and keep hammer going into the 9th. And if you get your deuce in 9, or if so Scott Jones seems to have been the first person to blink in this game here. We haven't had too many fortuitous errors, but that is certainly one that Ed Sear will be thankful for.
Yeah, that...
and throws the question that I was answering right out the window.
Yeah.
So... yeah. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we were absolutely never counting Team Sear out of this game. So now some discussions as to what to do next. And wind definitely still in their sails. So 5-5 in this 9th end now. How the tables have turned here in this game. Team Sear now with the momentum. 9th end, they're gonna want to try and steal again. If you force Jones to 1, that's pretty good. You have hammer in the last end. Can't ask for much more than that. Be down 1, of course, but if you can steal 1, put the pressure on Team Jones. That's the aim of this end for Ed Sear. Alex Kyle puts this guard A little further over than he'd like, but I don't think he should be upset as he is, because it's literally 6 inches off the center line. That guard's all right there, Alex. Chin up. So, Rob Daly's gonna
Play the come around.
yeah, he's gonna play the come around in this shot. You took the guard, that's fine. And he doesn't, so he's making plan A. Draws buried, relatively at least. Half in the 8 foot, so that's a fairly good shot from Rob Daly. So now Alex Kyle, after making his first shot all right, is gonna have to just tap this Yellowstone. I think Ed's here is calling for about back 4 T-line weight. Not too much, just move it out from being buried, keeping your blue in the rings. And Alex Kyle, once again, as I said, he's having a good game today. Makes his second shot pretty well. It wasn't plan A. The call was a tap, but
That was definitely in the talks.
Yeah.
Whether it be on top of the yellow or just around. As long as it was top house, it's an okay outcome.
which it was. So won't be upset about that at all. And it's buried around 2 rocks. You can't really ask. It's peeking out a little, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty good spot for that blue rock, especially without hammer in this ninth end.
Rob making a pistol there, putting it freezing right to it.
Can't ask for much better.
No.
Chris Wagner's going to be asked to play to that rock now. So now we're in a bit of a tic-tac-toe situation here now.
Yeah.
Some people would call curling chess on ice, and you're starting to see why in this end.
Yeah, it's all going to be who's going to pull the trigger first when it comes to that big upway hit to clear everything out.
And as we mentioned
that.
Guess who is going to pull that trigger first? Definitely Team Jones, from the indication we're getting, and that as we've talked about during this game, is not much of a surprise from this team. Scott Jones' team usually is a little more defensive, as we've mentioned, and showing that here once again. But that's the right call in this situation. Well, although now, in the same vein of what we've seen so far in this game, Jeremy Millett and Scott Jones having a little chat again, which isn't always bad, but you can't talk a shot to death.
I think it's the conversation is what rock do you want to hit. Opening it's the right call. It's just what one.
Yeah, which is always a tricky call. You gotta try and let your skipper figure that one out, unless you really have an obvious suggestion that's better. Now, in terms of where your shooter could end up, this may well be the better turn, as Jeremy Millett may have pointed out. And in terms of what can happen with your blue stones going into those yellows, maybe a better situation for the angles that are there. But 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. And that blue, once again, I mean, that's not an awful
They're
turn of events.
all tight in the house. It's
Yeah, it's nice. It's good you're not dealing with any mess out front, at least for Scott Jones now.
Granite will move if you hit it.
Yes. Yes. So may not have been Plan A, but definitely is a all right outcome. It's a decent outcome.
Okay.
Ed Sears going to
Call
call.
the timeout here on sheet 4. Just an update through 1 through 3. Ryan Kane is now up 5-3 after 8 against Terry Odishaw. Kaner's coming, back after a I call it a brutal loss. It was up 2 without hammer, completely guarded. Like no way you could think you get in there. And Darren Roach just makes this pistol of a shot to get in there to remove the 2 stones and to sit 3 for the win. Good to see that they're bouncing back after that loss. And then Magic Man Trevor Hansen, he's still up 4-2 against the Roach boys. And James is still holding serve at 4-2 right now after 8.
Yeah, just to clarify, all our games are still going here. Lots of good curling. We don't have any blowouts or anything. So nothing much better you can ask for in a tournament like this. So Team Sear is having some passionate discussion, to say the least.
Yeah.
Chris Wagner clearly indicating something he definitely believes in. Team Sear, Ed and Alex are kind of considering things. Everyone's giving their input. What the option is.
Well, with Scott missing his last shot in 9 or in 8, it definitely put a lot more wind in their sails. So
Yeah.
they want to make sure that they either steal or only give up 1. So need to have those conversations.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to find out here what Chris Wagner's going to do. Definitely, you want to pick the right shot for this situation. You don't want to mess it up too badly. I mean, obviously you want to throw something that helps you, but you also, you're playing with a double-edged sword here. Now, I believe the idea was the drag effect double with the yellows, which seemingly may not have really been there. But nonetheless, it was an attempt, and it could have been there. May have not just hit it a little wrong. But now, Team Jones is in a situation that is a lot more open and a lot better for them in terms of getting their deuce. So Brian King will try and take the first steps to doing that, hopefully in Scott Jones's case. For them, they're certainly hoping for a relatively open end, try and keep things simple. Team C are definitely hoping for the opposite, which may very well be a possibility here now. Don't know how this could be confusing anyway. You shot stone or behind 2 yellows. I mean, you throw a guard, or exactly what Ed Sear's saying now, freeze to that front yellow is not a bad idea at all. You are shot rock. Forces Team Jones to play against whatever you throw at them, and still avoid that shot rock, which is in a tricky spot with those 2 yellows in front of it, of course, but that spot's a little trickier if you have a blue guard in front of it. So we're going to see what Alex Robichaud has in store for us with this rock. Once again, that is his first rock, which has been a little different, but does the job. Team Jones considering the angles here. Jeremy Millet is going to trust in the skipper. In Scott we trust.
In Scott we trust.
And at least with the angles. And he may have trusted Scott, but not fulfilling the plan the skipper laid out there, to put it that way. So Alex Robshaw is going to have the same shot he just threw. Can't ask for any better if your team's here, really. So now, however, with Alex Robshaw having the same shot for his second rock, depending where he puts this, Jeremy Millet might have the exact same shot he just played. But that seems like that will not be the case. Alex Robshaw putting this rock a little
higher, a little better positioning for it.
Yeah, definitely more of a guard. Not really messing around with what's in the house as much. So not quite the same shot for Jeremy Millet, but an important clearing shot nonetheless. Try and make life easier for the skipper when it comes to his rocks. Now, we said a moment ago in Scott we trust, but Jeremy Millet seemed to have been attempting to call the audible, but they've come back. They've come back to the faith in Scott, and are throwing the peel once again. And seems to have made that perfectly. So, there you go. Can't ask for any better. Good recovery there from Jeremy Millet. So now Ed Sears is going to have his first rock of this ninth end.
Some discussion of where they want it to go, and I think it's just going to be the same thing, just right out front and halfway tight.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's worked so far, and as I mentioned earlier, when they started playing these shots, it forces Team Jones to try and deal with the rock you're throwing, with the rock you're placing. So it puts a little pressure on you to try and make that, because if you don't make it perfectly, then Team Jones will be with a smile on their face, throwing their next rock with a little less pressure and a little easier of an option. But if you make this shot, it definitely makes Team Jones's life a little more difficult. Not a lot of rocks in play, but you don't need rocks in play to make life difficult for a team with hammer. So Ed Sear makes the shot fairly well, a little further, closer to Alex Robishaw's first rock, but still a good option. And it's not frozen to that yellow, which makes it a little trickier to try any kind of run back option for Team Jones. If you don't hit the first one perfectly in these situations, it's really easy to move the second rock that's being hit the right way. But nonetheless, Scott Jones throwing his first rock of the end in this ninth end is going to try and do just that. Try and get the angles right. This is pretty darn good. Hard line the whole way.
Just off nose, low side.
There you go.
Clears everything off the forefoot, but does leave two blue in the house.
Yeah. Well, what was I saying about double-edged swords a minute ago? Oh, and Jeremy Millet knocks the head off of his broom, ladies and gentlemen. That tells you all you need to know about how he felt about that. So it looked pretty good, but as I said, Again, those angles are really tricky on those. When there's a little space between those rocks, it's really hard to get that perfect, and it's really easy, even at this caliber, to miss that. It's as Scott Jones just showed us, you almost make it perfectly. But here we are with 2 blues in the house, so really close to making that perfectly. But here Ed Sear is going to draw in to sit 3, behind a short yellow guard. And honestly, that blue on the 12-foot is another guard.
Yes. Just has to be in the paint anywhere from front of tee to back 4.
Yeah, and as much as you wouldn't like it, which it seems to be like it'll be back 8, but ideally you want that in the top of the 4-footer, in the top of the button, to really put the squeeze and really put pressure on Scott Jones for his last rock. But as you could guess, Scott Jones is gonna throw a nice draw here. Just need to get full 4. That's all you need for his 1 here in the 9th, which is certainly not exactly where Team Sear expected to be a few ends ago. But that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen, and it'll certainly be an interesting 10th end of curling here in our second draw of the New Brunswick Men's Provincials. Brian King on the rock right away. Once again, sweeping 4 line here, and what we mean by that is that Brian King's going to be sweeping against the curl, trying to keep that rock a little straighter. And that's basically what you'd be doing all the way on this shot, because if you're ever a little heavy, you have those 2 on the back that you can bump in case, and he almost does, but makes it for his 1. So Scott Jones makes the draw here in the 9th end to make it 6-5 for Team Jones, and Team Sear will have the hammer going into the 10th end. Meanwhile, on our other sheets, what do we got going on our other sheets right now there, Stephen?
No change yet in score. On sheet 1, they're still playing 9. Terry is sitting 2, 1 in the 8-foot, 1 in the 12-foot. Sheet 2 has finished 9, just starting 10. No update on the board as far as score goes. And on sheet 3, they are into mate stones right now. It's a 4-3 game for James Grattan. James hit and rolled on his last rock in 9, with Rene sitting 2. So they're right now they're just trading hits and guards, and James is sitting in the 4-foot right now.
And that's in the 10th end on sheet 3 as well. All of our games, and except for sheet 1, are in the 10th end.
Yeah, and it's a tie game on sheet 2. With it, 4-4 tie.
So anyway, over here on sheet 4, on our feature sheet, we're into the thick of it here now in the 10th end. As much as it may not seem like the important part of this end, this is probably the most important part of the last end of the curling game. There are these lead stones.
Yeah, Rob's first stone just over curled by about 1.5 feet. Not bad by any means, but definitely offers a corner guard for Ed and them to use if they want to. And then Alex's first stone just slides 1.5 feet too deep into the ring. So where it's in the rings, we can start removing stones.
Yeah, so and as I said earlier, Alex Shaw's had a pretty good game. That's one of only a few hiccups he's had. So, but nonetheless, a pretty important one in this 10th end. Rob Daly will get rid of Alex Shaw's first rock, but will roll out. So Alex Call will get another chance to put the guard up. Corner guard goes up. There is a bit of a cushion of comfort here for Team Sear. Definitely want to obviously get your 2 for the win. Full well knowing the odds aren't exactly in your favor going into an 11th end tied without hammer. Nonetheless, the goal will be 2 for Ed Sear, but there is that comfort there of another end if you only get your 1. Despite the odds, anything can happen. So good corner guard there by Alex Kyle. And Team Jones' center guard is not in a great spot for them in terms of positioning. It's more of a corner guard, which helps Team Sear more than it does them. For those of you who are yelling at your screens going, what about earlier, Will, when the other center guard was just off the center and you said it was fine? Well, 6 inches is different from a foot or 2. So that's where the difference is with this one. Just being a little off the center line isn't bad. This isn't, the yellow guard here certainly isn't awful, but definitely not ideal for Team Jones. And Brian King doesn't seem to be happy, and that's because his first rock here is a little heavy, which is not what you want when you're trying to keep a team from scoring 2. And we'll slip back 8.
Now, you talk about carpenter close and machinist close, and at the start of the game you can be carpenter close, and as the ends wear on, you gotta become machinist close.
Pulling out so many analogies and jokes here, ladies and gentlemen. Really, we're trying really hard for you, but that one, I have never heard that one, so I'll take that.
I've waited all broadcast. It ties in racing and stock car racing. So.
Oh my! All for your viewing pleasure, ladies and gentlemen.
So it looks like here we're gonna get a little bit of a tick off this front guard.
Or it might just tap it. Well, that's not bad. Still 2 corner guards. So still a pretty good situation. Now, Ed Sear's question for Team Sear right now is, as Scott Jones calls a timeout, is once you're in this situation where the corner guards are up, and Scott Jones will be talking about this as well, is when exactly does Ed Sear draw in either to that yellow that's been thrown already or around the corner guard? Is the first question.
The moment that Scott clears out the blues.
Yeah.
The moment those 2 blues are gone and you don't have your own blue color or your own stone with you, that's when you start using that one as a catcher.
So that's the worry for Team Sear. And for Team Jones right now, I believe the question is whether they do exactly that and throw that peel, or whether they draw around the yellow and try and make a better draw and sit top 8 and really put some pressure on Team Sear, but also sit in a pretty good spot. So Team Jones will do exactly that. Calling the draw in for Brian King here in his second rock.
And again, with this one, it's reducing the scoring area.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially when you're trying to, as I said earlier, when you're trying to prevent a team from scoring 2, that's exactly the goal. And if you can control the center, that's great. They have a guard there, not quite center, but as this slows down, you're sitting 2. It's not the best spot for that rock, but certainly is helpful.
We've got handshakes over on sheet 3. James Gratton just picked up 2 for the win. Had to make a last shot hit. So that went down to the wire.
Final score of 6-3 for Gratton on sheet 3. Chris Wagner will
So now you've curled here before, obviously. You're a member here.
Yes.
You always find in men's league, as soon as one sheet's done, the other sheets tend to change. So with them shaking on, and what a shot, with them shaking on 3, what do you think it's going to do out there?
Yeah, so it's definitely going to, as the bodies start to leave the ice, and especially in these late draws, when, it's past 10 o'clock here now, it's not exactly warm outside either. And some of the bodies leave the ice, especially when it's a sheet beside you. There isn't a game on the other side either. The ice will start to slow down a little. So you got to be aware of that. And these guys, I'm sure, are aware of that. Chris Wagner, relatively upset with that shot for, and I can give him credit for why he's upset about it. It's not exactly what they wanted, but you move the yellow further off of the center line, which isn't a bad result. That yellow is wide open in the rings now. You've forced Scott Jones to play around your own corner guard. And if they don't make that draw perfectly, you're still in a pretty good position to get your 2. And as we watch this yellow slow down, it almost acts as another guard if you can curl around it. So not the best of shots there from Team Jones. So Team Sear has a couple of options. They can come down to this yellow, as Ed's indicating now, or you can come around the one that was just thrown. So that's the options, and clearly going for the first option. Freezing to this yellow stone in the 8-foot. Now, as we mentioned, as the ice slows down, these sweepers are going to have to be on the ball, or on the rock, as one might put it. It's a pretty good shot from mate Alex Robichaud. Tap isn't perfect, but as I said, it's a pretty solid option, solid result. And Scott Jones is going to try and get rid of preferably both of those stones, but at least the blue rock. Hence the more than peel weight here by Jeremy Millet. And he will get both of those going, which is a pretty darn good shot from Jeremy Millet.
Alex still has the opportunity to do the same type of shot, just has to be a couple feet shorter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, is that even though Jeremy Millet made that good shot, you could see him give a bit of a head shake, and that's just because that yellow one is, as you mentioned, it's back tee, so it still gives you an option to freeze. Really going on this rock here now. Alex may not have given it the same amount of weight. Got to get by the guard, which it isn't.
Little rub and roll.
Rolls in for second shot.
So while we sit here and wait for Scott to throw his first stone, just don't want people to forget we do have the kitchen party here Friday night, 9 to 1 with Ivan Daigle, free admission, and it's put on by Grimross.
Yeah, so definitely come out to that. Peddler's Pub's downstairs, happy hour on Friday. Come down, see that. Watch a draw curling, and then come on in for that show on Friday night. So plenty of reasons to come on down to the Capital Winter Club this Friday. Scott Jones rolls out. Not content with that.
The hit and stick would have been nice, but you leave an inadvertent guard, and so make the blue go away. Right now,
So Team Sear now, as I mentioned, has had a couple of options. The freeze was one. Draw around these guards, and that yellow in the top 12 is definitely still pretty well a guard, realistically. Now electing to go for the second option I mentioned earlier, around these guards, to try and sit buried and really put a little bit of pressure on Scott Jones for his last rock at the end. But this is Ed Sear's first stone. You can see he gave it a little bit on his release. Definitely important as the ice slows down, but only if you need it. Sweeper's indicating that maybe he didn't. Nonetheless, it's trying to come down, trying to curl. Deep is okay here as long as you're buried. How buried it is, I'm not sure. I don't think it is. There might be a piece behind that long blue guard, which is why you don't exactly see Scott Jones sweating about this hit. Those long guards don't exactly play as much into it when it comes to these, but they are still a danger. You always say it's hard to wreck on one of those until you do it, so Scott Jones definitely trying to put his head down and make this hit in this 10th end. Last rock for Scott Jones. Hard out of his hand, Sweeper's on it all the way. Calling hard on it. Past the guard, but not past that yellow rock in the top 12 foot. Ed Sear's going to take his time
out. That's
Takes his time out.
yeah. That was
Guys, you're either playing the draw or the hit, so whichever one.
yeah. This is more so getting your headspace in what
Absolutely.
you want to play.
Yeah.
What ice, what the weight's got to be.
What you're comfortable with.
Yes.
All right. So smart call from Team Sear to take their time out, take their time throwing this last rock.
Can't take too much time because then that takes you out of it. This again too is a double-edged sword.
Yes.
But this,
Noticed a lot of those in curling.
yes.
So Ed Sear has an open draw for 2 for the win. Last rock of this feature game here on Sheet 4 at the Capital Winter Club, and draw 2 of action. Men's Provincials. Team Sear against Jones.
Just right now, steady clean so it doesn't pick.
Just gotta be full 4, even full 8, guys.
Full 8.
And Ed Sear makes his draw.
T-line weight.
Handshakes here.
Handshakes.
Final score of 7-6 for Team Sear, scoring 2 in the last end for the win. Thank you for tuning in for our coverage tonight. Remember, please make your way down to the Capital Winter Club if you get the chance to watch some of this curling action. Draws at 1 and 7 tomorrow, and if you can't make it, please tune into our live stream. Thank you, and good night.